Hello, I'm David Skvor, artist and author of the book, The Trinity of Art. In today's episode, I'm going to take you through this painting called American Pie, the Apocalypse. It's a departure from the normal sort of work I've done over the years, so it's one out of the box, something very different. And there's a lot to unpack today, so I'm going to use it, and I'll break it down into how, what and why. And when we were kids in the 60s and early 70s, there was a series of books out there called the How and Why Wonder Books. And for any kid, these books were very pictorial and scientific, and they broke down what we might loosely call the mysteries of the world, or how things operated and what they meant and how things are supposed to work. So I'm going to try and use that method to get through this, and there's a lot to unpack there. Now, if I go to the what is this? Well, firstly, it's a major work of mine. Now, it's taken me 12 months to do it. I mean, it's big in size, big in scale, so much so that I've even had to put the camera right back there. And I sort of thought about wearing my glasses today so I could see you guys through the camera, but I'll just have to squint. Now, it took me 12 months to do, and painstaking work, working every night in the hallway while the kids were watching telly, plugging away there. And I equate it to my Guernica. Like, it said of Picasso and his Guernica, when he finished it, another epic work, he put it away in his studio and no one saw it for 12 or 13 years. This painting's similar. When I finished it, wrapped it up in bubble wrap, chucked it in the shed, and now it's come out. And you are probably the first people in the world to see it in all its glory and have a chance to appraise it on that. Okay, back to the what. What is it? Well, basically, this is the vision that was given to St. John. Now, in the book of Revelations in the Bible, the Apostle John, St. John, was exiled to an island called Patmos. And in his later years, he received a vision. And he recorded that vision, and it's the prophecy of the end of the world and the return of Jesus Christ. So it's a subject dear to me, and that's what this is. Now, how I've recorded it is as I was reading the first 6 chapters, where most of the substance for these images have come. As I was reading and something stood out in my mind's eye, pictorially, I've recorded it. And these images obviously represent something. I mean, it's a prophecy, so it's something to come in the future. Now, I do not know what the meaning or the interpretation of these different symbols are. It's interesting that I've done something like this because I normally, 99% of the time, would never ever put symbols or words in my paintings, and even people in landscapes. I don't like to do that because it seems to throw out the perspective of the landscape. The people look wrong. They just don't fit in. So there's some sort of ground rules that I go by. So this is a real departure for me. Having said that, I sort of think putting in an explanation like, you know, a street name or a number is a cheap shot. That's just how I feel, and that's how I roll. Now, so you're going to say, what are all, these are all symbols, so he's, you know, contradicting himself. As I said, I don't know what they mean. And theologians and scholars have argued for thousands of years as to the meaning and the interpretation of this prophecy. And not one of them has worked it out yet. They've debated and they've, you know, And so far be it from me to think I know what it means. And I can tell you now, I do not know what it means. Now, why did I do this painting? Glad you asked that question. When I was in my younger days or earlier days painting, I had that sort of light bulb moment. I was searching around for art prizes, as they call them. I thought, I'll seek my fame and fortune. I'll make my name out there. I'll win one of these big prizes. Anyway, I tried a few, no good. Then one come along that I saw, and it was called the Blake Prize for Religious Art. And ping, there's that light bulb moment. I said, I've got this. I can fill that brief 100%. And I just thought, I'm on a winner here. I've got it. Anyway, sent it off. No cigar. But that's okay. That's how it goes. Anyway, you might say about the style of the painting. Why is it like this? Well, for me, where the inspiration of my style, I suppose, which I don't like that word, but I was a child of the 60s, so in the 1960s, it was like a French curve on steroids. There were so many new ideas. The world seemed to explode, and it was colourful, and there were shapes, and stars were popping out. And probably as a kid growing up, the world was just a wondrous, wondrous place. So there was a song that came out by Don McLean. I think it was in 1971, 72, around then. And American Pie it was called. Now, that's a great visual song. It just evokes images through his words of all these things. But no one's really, or so I believe, no one really knows the interpretation of that song. And in some ways, well, that is how, when I finished this painting, I named it American Pie, because it just reminded me of that song. It's just like, boom. And I don't know what it means. Now, how? The big question of how. How did I do it? And I've said to you before in some of my works, I don't know how I did it. It was an inspired work. And I'll go through the process a little bit, how it got from my mind to a bit of paper to on here. So as I was reading those first 6 chapters, I drew as I read. So if I went to, I don't know, a certain scripture and it said, there was the 4 horses of the apocalypse coming down on the clouds, well, bang, bang, bang. And basically, as all these images came to me from reading, a bit like the song, you know, American Pie, you visualise what you're hearing, and it's like reading a book, you visualise it. So that's all I've done, nothing special. So it was quite, the process wasn't that difficult, and I don't know how I did it. I couldn't do it again if I tried, and probably that's the trick, don't try. So as I read things, I just jotted it down. And the really interesting thing for me, the composition laid itself down as I read. So I would see something like the sword of truth that proceeds from the mouth of God. That would be a scripture. So boom, put the sword there. So everything just sort of fell into place. I wasn't shuffling things. I wasn't trying to make them fit. And this is my sketch pad from that time. I might have the date on it. There's no more. There's only one drawing. So the inspirational thing for me, I took this drawing, and normally to get something from paper to canvas, I might use a device, drafting device I use. I would grid the canvas up so I could extrapolate from there. This painting, I didn't do that. I just took that drawing, blank canvas, and I just drew the snake, drew the clouds, There's no rubbing out. There was no, it just went on like silk. How? I don't know how that happened. And I think in some ways, when I look back, I feel I've often referred to in my book about the Elysian, the ghosts of the Elysians. Sometimes they seem to guide you. I know it's fairly abstract and it's only early in my episodes that you might see this, but yeah, that's probably how. Now, I'm going to touch on next problem solving. So that's how it got here. And soon I'm going to just touch on the problem solving, how you make something end up like that. Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, problem solving. There's a lot going on here, and to get things to work, even though in your mind's eye you can see it clearly, that's probably the challenge of the artist and the mastery of what he does, or she, that they see something in their mind and they want to put it down visually, and that's the challenge. How do I do it? So I'll go through a few intricacies here that will show you some different things, I suppose. I don't know. Okay, the clouds. I've done, as I said, these shapes are very, I don't know, it feel 1960s for me. But the clouds are supposed to be on fire. So I've done the clouds, the outlines of the clouds in a just a neutral grey, but I've outlined it with red. Now red and grey fight, and they won't sit side by side, so it gives that sort of vibrancy of fire. And as you know, at the end of a flame is often a lighter colour, yellow, so I've done that. But the red wouldn't have sat with the blue, so the yellow sort of softens that. And so they're the sort of problem solving things you have to do. Up here, the stars, apparently in the vision there was a fight in heaven between the angels, and some were cast down to the earth and some were sent down. So with the stars, I had to make these ones feel like they were falling. So see how I've distorted the shapes to make them look like they were, they start here in the normal shape, and then they start elongating as if they're falling, and down here they sit there. Now down here are the souls of the departed who are waiting for the return. Now you're going to say, you put people in there, but they're not people, they're ghosts. So that's a whole new area and episodes that I'll be bringing to you about my ghosts. But I've had to somehow, this is night and dark and out in eternity, black, you know, the outer space. So the black I've had to blend to a grey. So these things are challenges. You don't know how you're going to do them, but you just do it somehow. Also with the colours here, I've had to blend a green with a Prussian blue, but you can't just have a dead straight line. It's not natural. So there's a lot of blending, like orange and green they're not going to sit well together. So somehow I've managed to get them to blend. The sword here is foreshortened. So it recedes back, but it doesn't upset the composition. It doesn't look like it's coming out too far. It's receding back. This rainbow here, which is supposed to be over the throne of God, I've used the colours orange, green and magenta. And the shape down here, or the symbol down here, is the devil or Satan. So I thought, he's a counterfeit. He's got to sort of do him in the same colour as God, but like the bad guy. So, or a counterfeit. So you'll see I've got red, green, magenta. So here I've got red, Prussian blue, green, orange, magenta. So they're reversed. So that's just a little intricacy that you might not pick up. So it's good for me to be able to point something like that out. Now these stars that are falling here, you'll see I've put them like, I suppose, 3D, so that it looks like that they're of substance. Because they're coming into the earth and landing on the earth, they couldn't just look like a white flat disc. So I've given them some body. Here we have the sky, which is blue, and around us we're all surrounded by air, which for all intents and purposes is clear or invisible. So how do you make invisible or where we sit? So I used a yellow, but to try and make the yellow and the blue meet, I've used a bit of white and I've brushed it, and in the end it's almost looked like a dust storm coming up, rolling over the hill, which is a bit of poetic license or artistic license from me, because that wasn't in the vision. But I had to solve that problem of marrying earth and sky. Up here, the sun has turned black, but somehow I've had to be able to try and get it to stand out. So I've had to fade off the blue there, and I think I've succeeded quite well there. The clouds were supposed to be white. It wasn't going to really work because the stars are white. We can accept that. So I did it in like a pearl. If you're wondering what that noise was, that was my dog come to see me. He wants to go for a walk. They're all at it. Okay, these are supposed to be the 4 horses of the apocalypse. A black horse, a red horse, a pale horse, and a white horse. Obviously, I can't put a white horse on a white background. So what I did, and they're supposed to be coming on the clouds. So this one I put against the blackness of the heavens, but he still sits on the clouds with them as he's coming forward. So that's a problem I've had to solve there. Probably an area where I failed. These are supposed to be golden lampstands. Really, gold's a very difficult colour to paint with. It doesn't seem to have much body. It's all light and not substance. So I used a brassy, bronzy colour and tried to do some whites, but haven't done a great job there, but it looks okay. For the point of the exercise, I solved the problem. You're never going to be perfect, so you've got to deal with some things. The eyes here, it's supposed to be, one of the scriptures says, in the right hand of God were the 7 stars, and in his left hand were the 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God. I want to say, nobody knows what these mean, but visually, the 7 eyes, that's not too hard. So I've had to do 7 eyes. And you think, it can't be the same. So I've used different colours, and I've tried to make them look like a round eyeball, you know, like a proper eye with the light, the shade at the top. A lot of work went into that. What other problems have I tried to solve? Down here, I've used gold there. It worked against the grey. That's a harp. And this here is supposed to be, there's supposed to be a golden bowl, and the prayers of the departed were going up to heaven. So this sort of mauvey, purpley colour works really good against grey, and it works even better against orange. I think going back to the colour wheel theory, the opposites or something, you know. But that works. So problem solved there. That was good. What else? So once again, you try to make this sword coming out, supposed to come out from the mouth of God. That's supposed to be the throne of God in these scriptures. So in there somehow I've captured a depth. So we could say or feel that that's the place of God. That's where he actually is, even though theoretically we think God is everywhere. But the throne of God is supposed to be some secret place that no one knows the origins or where. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. I've done that. What else can we see here? Lots of, yeah, when you finish a painting like this, I've said it before in some of my, in my book and other things, you don't know how you do it, and you stand back and you think, who did that? I couldn't have done that. And then even some things you forget. It's just like, because you go on to the next thing. Another little thing I had to do, I had to sign it, right? So I couldn't sign it down here in this dark space, I suppose. So I signed it on the snake. So I suppose in some ways that maybe I'm the bad guy. That was, I even had a chuckle at that, thought, yeah, maybe I'm saying something there. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode of American Pie. The hows, whats and whys. I don't think we've solved the mysteries of the universe or the mysteries of St. John's prophecy or its interpretation. I'll leave that for someone else to work out. I think that's the beauty of art. Not knowing. Not knowing how. Not knowing what. Not knowing why. I think as soon as you know that, the mystery of art's gone. It's not the what's that'll kill you, it's the what ifs. That's what my mum used to say. So what are we going to do next time? I don't know, but I hope I see you there.